Let me ask you something. How many times did you wake up last night just to go to the bathroom? Once, twice, maybe even more? And every time it happens, it doesn't just interrupt your sleep, it chips away at your energy, your focus, your mood the next day. What if I told you that tonight could be different? Not next week, not after some expensive treatment, but tonight. And it only takes 3 minutes before bed. Stay with me because by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why your body is waking you up and how to stop it starting today. Most people assume nighttime urination is just part of getting older, but that's not entirely true, often linked to habits, not just biology. But waking up multiple times a night is often linked to habits, not just biology. Your bladder isn't the enemy here, it's actually responding to signals you're sending it throughout the day, and especially in the hours before sleep. Let's start with something simple but powerful. Your evening routine, what you drink, what you drink it, and even what you eat can dramatically affect how often you wake up. Caffeine, for example, doesn't just keep your brain awake, it stimulates your bladder. And fluids consumed too close to bedtime, they don't just disappear. Your body processes them while you sleep, filling your bladder at the worst possible time. But here's where things get interesting. The solution isn't to stop drinking water altogether, that can actually make things worse. Dehydration irritates the bladder and can increase urgency. Instead, it's about timing and control. Now let's talk about the 3-minute hack. This is simple, practical, and surprisingly effective. Right before bed, go to the bathroom not once, but twice. This is called the double empty technique. You urinate normally, then wait about 20 to 30 seconds. Relax and try again. What you're doing is helping your bladder fully empty, reducing the chances that residual urine triggers another wake-up call in the middle of the night. Next, 1 minute to elevate your legs. Yes, just slightly. If you've been sitting or standing all day, fluid can pool in your lower body. When you lie down, that fluid redistributes and eventually ends up in your bladder. Elevating your legs briefly before bed helps shift that fluid earlier so your body processes it before you fall asleep. Finally, spend the last minute calming your nervous system. Stress and tension can increase bladder sensitivity. Now, here's something important if you're still waking up frequently despite trying these strategies. It may be your body signaling something deeper. Conditions like sleep disorders, prostate issues, or bladder dysfunction can all play a role, and ignoring those signs won't make them go away. But for many people, the issue isn't medical, it's behavioral. And that's actually good news because it means you have control. So tonight, instead of accepting another interrupted night, try this, adjust your fluid timing, use the double empty technique, elevate your legs briefly, and calm your body before sleep. It's simple, it's fast, and it works with your body, not against it. Because better sleep isn't just about closing your eyes, it's about staying asleep. And sometimes the smallest changes make the biggest difference. Most people believe that waking up at night to urinate is just a normal part of aging, something you simply have to accept as the years go by. But that assumption can quietly keep you stuck in a cycle that is both unnecessary and fixable, because the truth is your body is rarely doing this without a reason. And more often than not, that reason has less to do with your age and more to do with how your body, and especially in the hours leading up to sleep, because your bladder is not randomly deciding to wake you up. It is responding to signals, patterns, and habits that you may not even be aware of. For example, many people don't realize that the timing of fluid intake plays a much bigger role than the amount itself. So if you're drinking large volumes of water, tea, or other beverages in the evening, your body is still actively processing those fluids while you are trying to sleep, which naturally leads to increased urine production at night. But it doesn't stop there, because certain drinks like caffeine and alcohol don't just add to the volume, they actively irritate the bladder and increase urgency, meaning your bladder becomes more sensitive and more likely to wake you up even when it's not completely full. And then there's the role of your body's internal rhythm, because under normal conditions, your brain releases a hormone at night that tells your kidneys to slow down urine production. But factors like poor sleep quality, stress, or even exposure to bright light late at night can interfere with that signal, causing your body to produce more urine than it should while you're asleep. And Something even fewer people consider, the position your body has been in all day matters too, especially if you spend long hours sitting or standing. Fluid tends to accumulate in your lower legs due to gravity, and when you finally lie down at night, that fluid re enters your circulation and is processed by your kidneys, eventually ending up in your bladder and waking you up. So, what feels like a nighttime problem is actually something that started hours earlier. And when you connect all these dots, you begin to see that your bladder is not malfunctioning. It is simply following instructions based on your daily routine, your environment, and your physiology, which means that by making small intentional adjustments to those factors, you can change the outcome. And this is exactly why understanding the real cause behind nighttime urination is so powerful, because it shifts you from feeling like a passive victim of your body to someone who can actively influence how it behaves. And once you recognize that, you start to realize that waking up multiple times a night is not something you just have to tolerate, but something you can start improving with the right approach starting today. Your evening habits may seem harmless, even routine, but they are often the quiet drivers behind why your sleep keeps getting interrupted night after night. And the tricky part is that most people never connect these habits to their bladder because the cause and effect are separated by hours. So it feels like the problem just appears out of nowhere in the middle of the night, when in reality, it has been building steadily since the late afternoon, starting with what and how you drink. Because many people unintentionally front load their hydration into the evening after being busy all day, which means your body is suddenly processing a large volume of fluid right when it should be slowing everything down for sleep. And then there's the type of fluids you choose, because drinks like tea, coffee, and even some sodas don't just hydrate you, they stimulate your bladder and act as mild diuretics, increasing urine production while also making your bladder more sensitive to filling. So even smaller amounts of urine can trigger that urgent signal that wakes you up. And it doesn't stop at drinks, because food plays a role as well, especially meals high in salt, sugar, or spice late in the evening, which can alter how your body retains and processes fluids, sometimes leading to increased thirst and more drinking before bed, creating a cycle that keeps feeding itself without you realizing it. And then there's the subtle influence of your environment and behavior, like scrolling on your phone or watching bright screens late at night, which can disrupt your body's natural sleep signals and indirectly affect hormone release, including the hormone that helps reduce nighttime urine production. So your body ends up staying in a more daytime mode than it should, continuing to produce urine at a higher rate. And one of the most overlooked habits is simply ignoring early bladder signals during the day because you're busy or distracted, which can train your bladder to become more reactive and less tolerant, making it more likely to wake you up at night, even when it's not completely full. And when you put all of this together, you start to see a pattern where your nighttime awakenings are not random at all, but are the predictable result of small, repeated choices that feel insignificant in the moment, but compound over time. And the empowering part of this is that habits are changeable, which means that by adjusting when you drink, what you consume, how you wind down in the evening, and how you respond to your body's signals during the day, you can begin to shift that entire pattern in your favor, reducing the pressure on your bladder before you even get into bed, and setting yourself up for a night where your body is finally aligned with your goal of uninterrupted. Rather than working against it, there's a simple technique that sounds almost too basic to matter, yet it can make a noticeable difference in how often you wake up at night, and that is the double empty method. Something most people have never been taught, even though it directly targets one of the most overlooked causes of nighttime urination, which is incomplete bladder emptying before bed, because the assumption that your bladder is fully empty after a quick trip to the bathroom is not always accurate, especially if you're rushing, distracted, or carrying tension in your body. And what often happens is that a small amount of urine remains behind, not enough for you to notice in the moment, but enough to build pressure sooner than expected once you're asleep, triggering that frustrating wake-up call in the middle of the night. And this is where the technique becomes powerful, because instead of treating urination as a quick one-step action, you turn it into a brief, intentional process where you give your body the chance to fully complete what it started. So you go to the bathroom as you normally would, but instead of immediately leaving, you pause for about 20 to 30 seconds, relax your body, maybe take a slow breath, and then try again, allowing your bladder muscles to release any remaining urine that didn't come out the first time. And this works because your bladder doesn't always contract in one perfect, complete motion, especially if there's mild tension or if your pelvic floor muscles are not fully relaxed. And by giving it that second opportunity, you reduce the likelihood that residual urine will sit there overnight, acting as an early trigger for urgency. And what's interesting is that many people who try this for the first time are surprised to find that there actually is more urine release during that second attempt, which confirms that their bladder wasn't completely empty to begin with. And over time, this small adjustment can retrain your body to empty more effectively, reducing the frequency of those premature wake ups. And beyond the physical aspect, there's also a behavioral shift happening here because you're slowing down and becoming more aware of your body rather than rushing through a routine on autopilot, which can reduce subtle tension that interferes with proper bladder emptying. And when you combine this technique with other supportive habits like better fluid timing and a calmer pre-sleep routine, it becomes part of a larger system that works together to keep your bladder quiet through the night, making it less likely that you'll be pulled out of deep sleep for something that could have been addressed in just a few extra seconds before you even got into bed. Waking up once in a while to urinate might not seem like a big deal, but when it starts happening consistently, multiple times a night, it can sometimes be your body trying to tell you something more important. And this is where it becomes essential not to brush it off as just a minor inconvenience, because while habits and routines are often the main cause, there are situations where nighttime urination is actually a signal of an underlying issue that deserves attention. And one of the most common examples, especially in men as they get older, is benign prostatic hyperplasia, where the prostate gland enlarges and begins to press against the urethra, affecting how urine flows and making the bladder feel like it needs to empty more frequently, even when it's not full, leading to repeated trips to the bathroom at night. And then there are sleep-related conditions like sleep apnea, which many people don't immediately connect to urination, but it actually disrupts oxygen levels and hormone balance in a way that increases nighttime urine production. So the issue isn't just your bladder, it's your overall sleep quality affecting how your body regulates fluids. And for others, it could be linked to metabolic conditions. Diabetes, where elevated blood sugar levels cause your body to pull more fluid into the urine, increasing both frequency and volume, including during the night, and even certain medications, particularly those designed to remove excess fluid from the body, can contribute to this pattern if taken later in the day. And what makes all of this important is not to create fear, but awareness, because your body often communicates in subtle ways before anything more serious develops. And nighttime urination can be one of those early signals that something needs to be checked, especially if it's new, worsening, or accompanied by other symptoms like pain, difficulty urinating, excessive thirst, or daytime fatigue. And this is where paying attention to patterns becomes powerful, because if you've already improved your habits, adjusted your fluid timing, and tried simple techniques without seeing results, that's your cue that the issue might not just be behavioral, and getting a proper evaluation can help identify whether there is a medical factor involved and guide you toward the right treatment or management strategy. And ultimately, the goal is not just to stop waking up at night, but to understand why it's happening in the first place. Because when you address the root cause rather than just the symptom, you give yourself the best chance at not only better sleep, but better overall health and long-term well-being. So when you step back and look at the full picture, waking up at night to urinate is rarely random and almost never something you simply have to accept. It's a pattern shaped by your habits, your timing, and the signals your body is responding to every single day. And the empowering part is that so much of it is within your control, because with just a few intentional changes like adjusting when you drink, being mindful of what you consume in the evening, using simple techniques like fully emptying your bladder, and preparing your body properly before sleep, Dramatically reduce those interruptions and reclaim the deep, uninterrupted rest your body actually needs. And at the same time, staying aware of when something doesn't improve ensures that you don't ignore signs that deserve attention, which means you're not just chasing better sleep, you're also protecting your long term health. And ultimately, the goal isn't just to stop getting out of bed at night, it's to wake up feeling truly rested, clear headed, and in control of your body again, starting with what you choose to do